Alrighty, I've got an update on the war in Ukraine. But before I go anywhere near any of that, what I want to do is I want to play a video for you from the same lady of the video that I just played, and it's pretty telling. It only goes for a minute, so let's take a quick look here.
Imploring the people and all the peoples around the world, for God's sake, stop giving your democratically elected governments the benefit of the doubt. They are not deserving of that. They are not. Stop rationalizing whatever your government is doing. Stop rationalizing and come up with some good intentions. They have no good intentions. Never. As I said before, in the entire history of mankind, there has never been a political elite concerned about the well-being of regular people. And it isn't any different now. Why should it? Stop giving them the benefit of the doubt. Because I can tell you, you cannot comply your way out of a tyranny. It is impossible. Trying to do so, you will only feed a gigantic alligator in the hopes of being eaten last. But guess what? Your turn will come, and then you will be the one swallowed up.
All right, I wanted to start off that because some people have a way with words that really gets to the very heart of feelings as well. And that lady did a good job, particularly right at the end, saying, if you think that you're supporting these people and they care about you, they just don't. At no time in human history has anyone in the political class ever cared about you. All they care about is getting re-elected and holding on to the power that they have. And we've seen that so many times in the 20th century where they'll do absolutely anything to destroy a society and to suppress you. We see it right now in China, where the CCP put Uyghurs into a re-education camp because they're Muslims. And it's not because they're Uyghurs or they're an ethnic minority or something like that. It's because religion is ruled out under communism. And the Uyghurs happen to be the Muslims. But where are all the Muslims of the world standing up against the CCP? Where are the Saudis? Where are all the head-chopping Wahhabis? Where are all the Sunnis and the Shias going to bat for these fellas? It doesn't make any sense to me. But if you think that you can back a politician and Kevin McCarthy's a good guy because he got a debt deal for you, you're wrong. Because Kevin McCarthy will send you to war just as quickly as Joe Biden will, just as quickly as Donald Trump will. And I'm so worried here in Australia that Anthony Albanese will do whatever the American government says and follow the American government into a war with Taiwan and China. And the problem is that the Australian military here, from my perspective, is so small that the forces that we send will be destroyed in the first week of the war. That's the reality. They'll be destroyed. All of them will be destroyed. That's the reality. The vast majority of Ukrainian troops that started the war less than a year ago are dead. They're dead. All of the Russian troops that started a year ago are dead. They're gone. They've been taken off the battlefield in one way or another. Either they've had a really long nap in the sunflower fields of Ukraine, or they've been taken away because they've been blown to pieces and they're injured and they can never live a normal life again. And my concern is that we're going to have to follow America into a war with China about Taiwan, and we can't sort that out because old men can't talk to each other. Xi Jinping is 70, Joe Biden's nearly 80, and these people can't talk to each other to solve these problems. Those two people have known each other for the last 20 years. They've been talking to each other for 20 years, and we're going to end up in a war, in a shooting war with them, maybe a nuclear war with them. Just yesterday, Taiwan came out and said, please, America, can you put us under your nuclear umbrella? Because we're really worried about that, and that will be the ultimate deterrence. All the weapons that you send to us don't matter, but if you put us under the nuclear umbrella and they attack us, then we can attack China with nuclear weapons. What? Where are we going? Are we at DEFCON 2? We're just a moment away from DEFCON 1 and somebody's pressing that red button and off we go. Here it comes. It's very, very scary. So let me just remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that no matter who is in power in politics in your country, no matter what you think about the war in Ukraine or a potential war with Taiwan and China, no matter what you think about any of those things, war is a complete and absolute and total failure of humanity. And I'll show you a couple of slides. I'm going to share my screen and I'll play a couple more videos for you here, but I want to show you what happened just a couple of days ago. So today is the 31st of May. This is 2 days on the 29th of May. So the Russians launched 37 cruise missiles, 29 Shahed drones and one Orlan drone in one evening. Imagine if you're on the receiving end of all of that, and they fired all of that at Kyiv. And imagine if you're on the receiving end of that. So they send hundreds of millions of dollars worth of equipment to kill people, not even targeting military installations, it doesn't seem. They're just firing that stuff randomly. They're targeting something, of course, but the vast majority of it seems to miss its target and land on civilian targets. And then there's hundreds of millions of dollars of outgoing fire to destroy these things. And so you have $200 million worth of weapons come in, $300 million worth of weapons go out, and 1 or 2 or 3 of these things actually land and kill some people in the process. Like, war is a complete and total failure of humanity. And Zelensky's running around Europe on runways with his jumpers, showing everybody what a great leader he is, asking for more money. Olaf Scholz gave him 3 billion euros yesterday. Like, really, man, war is just a complete, total failure of humanity. Olaf Scholz, an old man, gave Zelensky, another old man, more money so he can fight another old man in the Kremlin. Do not follow these politicians blindly into a war. Do not buy into their propaganda, and do not buy into any of it. Let me share my screen and show you exactly why I don't want you to buy into that, because it is a complete and total abject failure of humanity. And this will remind you why. So this is the deep state map, folks. If you want to see the resources that I'm using, just scroll down, and in the show notes you can see it. So not much has happened in the deep state map in the last couple of weeks, just because we're in a stalemate because of the weather. But it looks like Bakhmut's been coming back. Wagner have pulled out of there. They're reinforcing the positions with Russian troops now, and the green part is what's been taken back. So they've been fighting in a stalemate for the last couple of months, really, in Bakhmut here in the eastern part of Ukraine, trying to take back this city. And the net result of that has been so many people being killed. They estimate 30,000 Wagner soldiers have been killed. And I would actually concur with that. I can't show you the photos or the videos, but I can show you photos that I was just looking at this morning from that part of the world, where there's just rows and rows and rows of dead bodies. And I think in one photo, there was probably maybe 50 people on 2 sides of the road. It's like they recovered all the dead people and the vehicles were coming along to pick them up and take them away. But it's just the scale of it is unbelievable. In another video, I saw some Ukrainians assaulting some Russian positions. And as they're assaulting the positions, what they're actually doing is they're clearing the Russian trenches. But as they're moving up, all the artillery has killed everybody that's there. And there's literally 20 or 30 people in a 1-minute video that have been killed. And it's just the scale of destruction and the force of weapons is amazing. This is the total failure of humanity right here, folks, on the -russia.com website. So 207,440 people have been killed. 410 people were taken off the battlefield yesterday. And it represents 92% of the Russian forces, the 900,000 in their regular forces. That's why they mobilize so many people, right? Because of that. So 622,000 wounded plus 200,000 there. The total is there. They've lost 7,000 vehicles, nearly 4,000 tanks, 3,400 artillery pieces, 300 aircraft, nearly 300 helicopters, and 18 ships and boats. I can tell you, folks, that this is a complete and total abject failure of humanity. And if you think that you can blindly follow somebody into a war because their politics is right, or they're right, or some country shouldn't invade some other country, you're wrong. Don't do that, folks. Whatever you do, do not follow your politicians. Do not join the military, and do not do anything that they tell you to do. I was in the military for 10 years following orders randomly by these leaders. And when I look back at that, that looks like a mistake. That seems like a mistake. And I don't regret many things in my life, but following those orders blindly and behaving like that and doing those things and marauding across other countries, that seems like a mistake. Luckily, I wasn't involved in a high-intensity conflict like in Afghanistan or Iraq. I was part of a multinational task force enforcing sanctions against Iraq in 1996. So you're enforcing sanctions, inflicting pain on the general population by stopping cargo ships and saying, no, you can't have that food, no, you can't do that. How many millions of kids died as a result of those sanctions? A lot of people died as a result of those sanctions. A lot of people. And I put my hand up and say I was part of that. And I was part of that because my government told me to go and do that. Is that a good thing? Do I live with regret related to that? I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't feel proud of it, that's for sure. And if they want you to go and fight in a place like Ukraine, this is what happens. I want to show you the Russian perspective, and I want to give you a perspective you've never seen here. So here's another video that came out yesterday, and I'll share that with you right now. So if you're listening to this, this is a Russian soldier surrendering.
Да. Не заебашить. От сюдою, блядь, от сюдою. Что, принимаешь?
Забирай, блядь, забирай все вот это.
Все,
блядь.
забрал.
Ложись. Руки ко мне вытягивай. Руки в замок. Ползешь. 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 Ползешь, говорю, блядь.
Ползешь.
Отстегивай ему пояс. Отстегивай пояс, блядь. Пацаны, муху заберите отсюда. Забирай, блядь.
So if you're just listening to that, folks, it's a Russian guy surrendering and he's crawling on his hands and knees, and then he comes up on his knees with his hands on his head. He chucks his helmet off. The Ukrainians say, hey, get down, crawl over here, get into the trench. They pull him into the trench. They search him. They empty all of his pockets. They cut all of his clothes off him. Then they zip tie him and put tape around his eyes. They make sure he's all right. They give him a drink and make sure he's good to go, and then they get rid of him. And when you look at that, you think, man, it must take some really big kahunas to be in one of those trenches fighting like that, World War I style. Imagine how big that guy's balls are to walk across the dead ground there, the no man's land in the middle, all the way to a Ukrainian position and potentially be shot by your side and potentially be shot by the Ukrainian side. So you're worried about getting shot from the front and from the back, and then he goes over there, puts his hands up and goes, I had enough. I had enough. And I thought to myself when I saw that, man, that is like maybe one of the bravest things I've ever seen, ever, that a soldier do. And he's surrendering. And it's brave on many fronts because he's risking being shot by his own troops and he's risking being shot by the enemy, the Ukrainians, on his front side. But then it's so brave for him to finally wake up and realize that fighting on behalf of Putin, fighting Zelensky, is just a moot point. It's just stupid. Why are you even doing that? Why are you perpetuating that? And I sort of look at these things and I think to myself, if you were in World War II and you were in a concentration camp and you were a Nazi guard, would you perpetuate it? Oh, I was just there. I was just doing my job. Those Nazi guards in the Nuremberg trials just all shrugged their shoulders and went, no, I wasn't there. There's a good book out there, folks. Every person on planet Earth should read the book. It's called Ordinary Men. Yeah. And it's about German police officers that go into Poland after Germany rolls up Poland at the start of World War II. So they go in there and the army doesn't go and take over law and order. They put the cops in there like they have in every other city on planet Earth. The cops go in there. They're older guys. They're like my age. They're in their mid to late 40s. And these older guys, there's a platoon of them. There's like 30 of them. One morning, the boss comes out, stands them all in a hollow square, like anyone that's ever been in the military on a parade in the morning knows what that feels like. And he says, righto, the orders have come down from the fatherland, and they've said to us from Berlin that we need to go and get all the Jews and round up all of the Jews. Anybody that doesn't want to do that, just go over there. And there's a couple of people that step out. What happens if we don't want to do it, boss? We'll just send you back to Berlin. We'll put you on the next train. A couple of people step out, off they go. So the book is written by an investigative journalist who goes back and finds all the people in that platoon and goes back and says, what happened? And so they go and tell all the stories of what happened, but they say, I was there, but I never did any of that. We went and kicked all the doors in. We dragged everybody kicking and screaming to the town square. We loaded them onto trucks. We took them out where they dug all of the ditches and the trenches, and we lined them up. And then the other people that were there, they shot them. I never shot anybody. So every story that's recounted is showing you that they were there and it happened. Okay, cool. You're trying to absolve yourself of the responsibility that you murdered hundreds of Jewish people in that Polish town. Okay, cool. I understand that you're trying to absolve yourself of it, but you didn't try and prevent any of it from happening, did you? You didn't get in the way and go, hey, we can't do this. You never spoke up. You never did anything. You're complicit. You're complicit. If you go to a war in Ukraine against Russia, you're complicit in the crimes that these politicians are perpetrating. You're just an instrument and a tool of that. And if you need to put your hands up and surrender, you should. Russia shouldn't have invaded Ukraine. There's no doubt about that. I'm not condoning that, not for a second. But what I'm saying to you is that governments don't care about you. The policies and the politics of government and war, they don't care about normal people because it's normal people that are sent to war. All right, I want to shift gears here and share a video with you from a captured Russian soldier. So this is only from a couple of days ago, so it's translated. So if you're listening to this, you'll be able to catch what he's saying. Just listen very closely to the way that he's treated. And I want you to remember back to the very first video I showed you just a moment ago about that woman saying, whatever you do, don't give your power to the democratically elected political class. Don't give your power to them, because if you give your power to them, this is what's going to happen to you.
set up checkpoints and said, if there is any movement in our direction, open fire. Later they started running away from their position, fleeing the fire. We told everyone else through the radio that our guys are running away, and the commander said, open fire on them. I asked, but it's our guys, why should we shoot them? He told, shoot. They must not be running away. They should not be afraid. So basically it is the same as it was during Stalin's times. Barrier troops at the rear that shoot you if you return or run away from fire. That's the way it is, I'm telling you. They don't give you a chance to survive. I've escaped from the service 4 times, but they found me and made me go back to war. I voluntarily consent to be filmed and recorded. My name is Konstantin Valerievich Grigoriev. I was born in 1992 in Peshchane, Starobilsk area, Donetsk region. After the military training, I escaped again. They searched for me over a month. Eventually, I got caught and sent back to war. We don't go to jail for that anymore now. There is no such thing as going to jail for desertion. The punishment is entirely different. You get beaten up and sent back to war. Moreover, you are being sent to the front line because you are guilty. You get punished that way if you escape, get drunk regularly, or do some things like that. They beat you up and make you go to the hottest place of the front line. If you survive there, they send you to even worse position. If you survive there as well, then you can get an amnesty and live like a regular soldier. Beastliness. That's why I ran away. I surrendered because I was sick of this. They don't see us as human beings and didn't give us food or clothes. Everything we have, uniforms, shoes, backpacks, and everything else we buy at our own expense. They say that you have a salary, then you buy it. But to be able to get that salary, you need to at least survive until you can have it. Every day it just gets more and more terrifying.
All right, I want to just remind people that he consistently throughout that interview, he says they. So my question to you, Ed, who is they?
Well, the political class. No, he was a Ukrainian, right?
No, he's a Russian.
He's a Russian. Okay, well, okay. Because he said he talked about the Donetsk region there, so I thought maybe
That's where he was from. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Well, they are the political class who sent him to war.